Hello friends. Have you ever wondered what it's truly like to love, and be loved by, an Aries? To be tethered to that fiery, impulsive, passionate soul who turns ordinary life into an epic saga of emotion, challenge and discovery? Aries in marriage is not just a partner, they are an experience. They are the spark that can warm your heart or burn your world, depending on how you handle the flame. Below, we'll unfold the complex, thrilling, and sometimes chaotic world of Aries in marriage through 7 deep, story-like insights, their strengths, flaws, needs, and the rare zodiac matches that either elevate or exhaust them. After watching, if you'd like to support the channel, click the Thanks button right under this video or use the donation alerts link in the description. Your support really helps me keep creating. And of course, if you enjoy the content, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for being here. Now let's continue. The eternal flame, passion as a way of life. Imagine waking up every morning next to a sunrise. A living, breathing sunrise that doesn't simply illuminate the world, but commands it to burn brighter. That's what it's like to share your life with an Aries. Their presence doesn't just fill a room, it charges it with voltage, with that unspoken current that makes the air feel electric. They don't love in the traditional sense, they ignite, consuming and transforming everything they touch. To be loved by an Aries is to be reminded, daily, fiercely, relentlessly, that you are alive. Routine, to them, is death by quiet suffocation. The idea of waking up to predictability feels like being locked in a room without oxygen. Aries doesn't breathe routine. They breathe adrenaline, curiosity, and challenge. They crave the kind of excitement that keeps their heart galloping and their imagination racing. They need movement, forward motion, a sense that the story of their marriage is still being written, with fresh ink, not faded memory. When an Aries commits to you, they do so with their entire being, not a fraction less. They throw themselves headfirst into love, without calculating risk, without building emotional safety nets. To them, real love requires danger. They want to stand on the edge, feel the wind of uncertainty whip across their face, and still say, "Yes, I choose this. I choose you." In marriage, Aries wants their partner to meet them at full speed, to dance through life's chaos, not just endure it. They will pull you into midnight road trips, spontaneous adventures, and reckless laughter that starts for no reason other than the joy of being alive together. When the world feels heavy, they'll lift it with humor and a wild grin. When it feels dull, they'll shake it until it glows again. But passion isn't just play for Aries, it's a form of truth. They measure love not by words but by energy, intensity, and effort. They don't believe in lukewarm affection. If they touch you, it's with purpose. If they kiss you, it's with fire. If they fight with you, it's because they care enough to burn through the walls that dull connection. That's why when things grow too calm, they'll stir the pot themselves. Not out of malice, but out of instinct. They'll create small storms, a teasing argument, a daring challenge, a sudden question that pierces the quiet, just to see if the thunder still echoes between you. They want proof that love hasn't turned stale, that passion still has a pulse. They need to feel the heat to trust that the bond is real. Their impulsivity, though often misunderstood, isn't recklessness for its own sake. It's a hunger to experience life without filters. They live in the now, not the later, not the someday. The world is too vibrant to be postponed. An Aries doesn't wait for the right moment, they make it right by acting. Every decision, every move, every spontaneous act of love comes from that deep, instinctive need to stay connected to the heartbeat of existence itself. They'll show their affection in ways that catch you off guard, buying plane tickets in the middle of the night, sending messages that feel like sparks flying through the digital void, planning a dinner on the roof instead of the dining room. To an outsider, it might look chaotic. To the one they love, it's exhilarating. Aries believes that love should taste like surprise. And yet, for all their fire, there's tenderness in the way they burn. Underneath their boldness is a genuine, almost childlike hope that their partner will meet their passion with equal warmth. They long for someone who doesn't just tolerate their flame but adds oxygen to it, someone who sees the beauty in their intensity rather than the inconvenience. They'll adore a partner who laughs at their impulsive ideas, who says, "Why not?" instead of, "That's not practical." They thrive on encouragement, on feeling like their fire has found a home rather than a cage. Aries will never be tamed by control, but they will be transformed by love that accepts their chaos as part of their magic. In marriage, Aries often becomes the emotional thermostat. When they're happy, the entire home glows with vitality. When they're hurt or ignored, the warmth fades fast. Their moods are weather systems, but never boring ones. They want their relationship to be a living landscape, something that grows, storms, recovers, and blooms again. They are at their best when their partner shares their sense of play. To laugh, to explore, to argue passionately, and to make up just as fiercely, these are love languages for Aries. They see intensity as proof of life. Calm, for too long, feels like silence after music, unsettling, unnatural. But let's be honest. This level of emotional voltage can be overwhelming for those who crave peace over thrill. Aries will test boundaries, not maliciously, but to understand where the limits of connection lie. If their partner pulls away or builds walls, Aries will either try to break through them with greater force or, if they feel truly rejected, retreat entirely, carrying their flame elsewhere. To sustain a marriage with an Aries, one must understand that their fire cannot be extinguished, it must be fed. Feed it with honesty, spontaneity, admiration, and shared adventure. Tell them when they inspire you, challenge them when they falter, never ignore them when they burn bright. They crave presence, the feeling that you're not just in their life but alive in it with them. Their love is not always gentle, but it is always real. Aries will make mistakes, say things too fast, move too soon, forget to slow down, but their heart, even in chaos, beats with pure intention. They don't know how to fake love, how to pretend passion, how to settle down without setting something on fire. And maybe that's their greatest gift. In a world that too often trades intensity for safety, Aries reminds us that love, real love, isn't supposed to be calm. It's supposed to move you, shake you, wake you. It's supposed to make you remember that your heart can still race, your spirit can still rise, and your life can still be an adventure. Their motto: if it's not fiery, it's not real. And when you're married to an Aries, you'll learn that sometimes, the most beautiful way to live is to never stop dancing with the flame. The warrior lover, fierce loyalty, fierce independence. To marry an Aries is to share your life with a force of nature, a warrior whose armor gleams with courage, conviction, and unapologetic individuality. They are not the kind of lover who stands quietly in the background. They stride into the center of every storm, sword of passion in hand, ready to defend what they love. Being with them feels like living beside a flame that never bows to the wind. You can't possess them, you can only walk beside them, strong enough to meet their eyes and brave enough to stand in their fire. The Aries lover is built from contradiction. They crave connection as fiercely as they guard their independence. Their loyalty runs bone deep. Once they choose you, they are steadfast to the end. But loyalty, to them, doesn't mean surrender. It's not a leash, it's a vow made in freedom. They will defend you with a ferocity that borders on myth, but if you try to own them, the same fire that once protected you will rise against you. They are warriors not only in the physical sense, but in spirit. Everything in life is a battle for meaning, and love is their grandest campaign. They fight not to dominate but to protect the sacred space between two people. Their instinct to defend is almost primal. Insult their partner or threaten their family, and you'll awaken their full Martian nature, fierce, fearless, and unrelenting. Yet behind every roar lies tenderness, for their anger always blooms from care. What makes an Aries marriage extraordinary, and sometimes exhausting, is that they don't half love. There's no cautious dipping of toes in the water of emotion. They dive headfirst into the ocean, armor and all. They are not afraid of being hurt, they are afraid of being bored. A calm sea may comfort others, but to Aries, it feels lifeless. They long for waves, for the crash of emotion, for the exhilarating challenge of loving someone who can meet their strength with their own. Their independence is sacred. It's not a rejection of closeness, but a foundation of it. Aries believes that two strong individuals create the strongest union, two whole flames burning side by side rather than merging into one. They will never trade their identity for love, and they respect a partner who doesn't either. They need to know that the person beside them has a world of their own, a heartbeat that doesn't depend on theirs. That's what keeps them fascinated, the sense that their partner is a living mystery, not a shadow following their steps. If you try to control them, they will pull away, not because they love you less, but because control suffocates them. They need the freedom to explore, to think, to act, to fail, and to rise again. They recharge in solitude, not through detachment, but through self-renewal. When Aries takes time alone, it's to sharpen their sword, to return stronger, clearer, and more devoted. Give them that freedom, and they will reward you with unwavering loyalty. Deny it, and they will retreat into silence or rebellion. Being married to an Aries means learning the delicate art of space and closeness. They will hold your hand through fire but expect you to walk on your own 2 feet. They don't want a follower, they want a co-warrior. Someone who can fight beside them, who shares their hunger for purpose and adventure. When you stand shoulder to shoulder with them, neither leading nor lagging, they see you as an equal, an ally, a soulmate forged through battle. Aries loves through action. Their affection often appears in motion, fixing something for you, defending you in a conversation, or working tirelessly toward a shared dream. They are not always comfortable with vulnerability in words, but their loyalty speaks louder than any confession. To love them is to learn their language of deeds. They won't say, "I'll always be here," because they'll already be standing there, ready. Their sense of duty is almost heroic. They take responsibility seriously, not in the quiet, methodical way of an earth sign, but in the blazing, decisive way of fire. If they promise something, they move mountains to keep that promise. In marriage, this can be both a blessing and a burden. Their pride won't let them quit even when exhausted. They push themselves, and sometimes their partner, to extremes. But beneath their drive lies a simple truth. Aries doesn't fight against life, they fight for it. The shadow of their independence, however, is their fear of vulnerability. To a warrior, removing armor feels like exposure. They struggle with dependence, not because they don't trust their partner, but because needing someone feels like surrender. It takes time, patience, and gentleness to show them that letting love in is not losing strength, but finding a new kind of courage. Once they realize that, they become profoundly open, fiercely affectionate, and astonishingly tender. An Aries partner is also a mirror. They'll push you to discover your own independence, to grow stronger, to speak your mind. They can't stand complacency. They'll challenge your excuses until you rediscover your power. It's not always comfortable, but it's always transformative. To be loved by Aries is to evolve. They won't let you settle for half-lived dreams. They'll drag you toward the life you're capable of living. And yet, in quiet moments, when the armor is off and the world is still, Aries reveals a softness rarely seen. They'll rest their head on your shoulder, not as a conqueror seeking glory, but as a soul seeking peace. Their fire dims, not because it's dying, but because it trusts you enough to rest. That's when you'll see the other side of the warrior, the lover who fights not just for you, but with you. To understand Aries is to accept their duality, fierce and fragile, independent and devoted, proud and passionate. They are not built for half measures. They love the way they live, all in, with no armor between heartbeats. When you earn their loyalty, it's not just emotional, it's spiritual. They will believe in you even when you doubt yourself. They will stand by you in silence when words fail. They will face the world's chaos and still come home to you, ready to rebuild. But remember, loyalty from an Aries cannot be demanded, it must be inspired. They follow only those they respect. They will not bow to authority, but they will kneel in love, willingly, beautifully, when they feel seen. If you try to make them smaller, they'll vanish. If you let them be vast, they'll wrap their universe around you. Marrying an Aries means living with fire, not the gentle warmth of a candle, but the roaring blaze of a forge. It will shape you, test you, and in the process, burn away everything false. What remains is truth, raw, radiant, and real. You'll learn that love isn't possession, it's partnership. Not comfort, but courage. And when two warriors finally find each other, not in conquest, but in mutual respect, something extraordinary happens. The battle quiets, the fire steadies, the independence doesn't divide, it strengthens. And in that shared silence, that sacred space where both are free yet bound by love, Aries finally smiles, because they've found the rarest thing of all. Someone who can fight beside them, not behind them. The fire and the fuse, how Aries handles conflict. Being married to an Aries means learning to live with weather that shifts fast, sudden storms that crash, flash, and clear before you can even open an umbrella. The intensity that makes them passionate lovers also fuels the way they fight. They are ruled by Mars, the ancient god of war, and conflict to them isn't a catastrophe, it's communication. Where others tiptoe around tension, Aries charges straight into it. They'd rather wrestle with a problem in the open than let it rot beneath polite silence. When anger strikes, it comes like lightning, bright, hot, and immediate. You'll see it in their eyes first, that spark that ignites before the words even form. They don't rehearse speeches or plot revenge, they erupt. Their honesty can slice through a room like a blade, but the intent isn't to wound, it's to release. Aries needs expression the way fire needs air. Bottling up frustration feels unnatural to them, almost dishonest. So they speak, they shout, they roar, and then, just as quickly, they exhale. To those unfamiliar with this rhythm, it can feel alarming. How can someone yell 1 minute and laugh the next? But that's Aries, they burn, then burn out. The storm clears, and they're already planning dinner, their hand reaching for yours as if nothing happened. The emotional debris that others hold onto simply doesn't stick to them. They forgive almost instantly, not out of moral superiority but because they genuinely don't like carrying weight. What truly unravels an Aries isn't the fight, it's the silence that follows when their partner withdraws. If you retreat into cold distance or passive resistance, they feel abandoned. Their mind doesn't translate quiet as peace, it hears it as rejection. They'd rather face a roaring argument than a closed door. When they sense avoidance, their anxiety spikes, not because they want drama, but because they need connection. So how should one stand in the storm? With truth and presence. Meet their fire with calm strength, not submission. Tell them what you feel, directly and without venom. Aries respects people who can hold their ground. When you look them in the eye and speak honestly, the heat starts to drop. They see a worthy opponent, not an enemy. The fight transforms into dialogue, and suddenly the chaos becomes clarity. Aries doesn't engage in subtle manipulation or drawn-out cold wars. Emotional games drain them. They find passive aggression unbearable because it twists communication into something murky and slow. They crave resolution, clear words, clear hearts. Even a harsh truth feels kinder to them than a polite lie. If you want peace with Aries, skip the performance and get to the point. Their temper, though famous, often hides a surprising purity. Anger for them is rarely rooted in malice, it's an overflow of passion. They fight hardest when they care the most. If they didn't value you, they wouldn't spend the energy. Behind the raised voice is a plea. See me, hear me, meet me. Once they feel understood, the war evaporates into warmth. There's beauty in that speed. A cleansing fire that doesn't linger long enough to scorch the earth. Many partners of Aries come to realize that the conflict itself isn't destructive. The resentment that could follow simply never arrives. The Aries philosophy is simple. Say it, solve it, move on. They can argue at noon and bring you coffee by 1, grinning like nothing happened, because to them, it truly didn't. However, their impulsive nature means words can fly faster than thought. They may strike with a sentence that hits harder than intended, and only later notice the bruise it left. If you tell them calmly, "That hurt me," you'll often see regret flash across their face. Aries isn't too proud to apologize, they just need to understand that pain occurred. The moment they see it, they'll fix it, eager to make things right. But holding grudges against them is a mistake. Aries forgives in seconds and expects the same. If you cling to past battles, they'll grow restless, even resentful. To them, dragging yesterday's war into today feels like reopening healed wounds. They believe every sunrise resets the emotional field. If you can meet them in that mindset, your relationship will never rust from bitterness. When handled well, conflict with Aries becomes a crucible. It burns away misunderstanding and leaves behind truth. These heated moments often strengthen the bond rather than break it. Each argument clarifies boundaries, each reconciliation renews passion. It's in the aftermath of a fight that Aries often becomes their most affectionate. They'll wrap their arms around you, kiss you hard, and say, "We're okay now, right?" Because to them, resolution is intimacy. Their partner, therefore, plays a vital role, not in extinguishing the flame, but in learning its rhythm. When you understand that Aries' anger is an emotional thunderstorm, not a moral judgment, you stop fearing it. You learn to stand in the rain, knowing it will soon pass, and that afterward, the air will be cleaner. Aries admires those who can do that, who can weather their passion without flinching. It makes them feel safe enough to be fully themselves. Still, the lesson for Aries lies in patience. They must learn that not everyone burns at their temperature. Their quick forgiveness doesn't erase another's slower healing. The evolved Aries, the one seasoned by love, learns to pause, to let the flame flicker without letting it scorch. They begin to master the art of controlled fire, speaking truth without destruction. And when they do, they become not just warriors but protectors of harmony. Their passion turns constructive, fueling honest communication, emotional transparency, and trust. They learn that strength isn't proven by who shouts louder, but by who listens deeper. In the end, marriage with Aries is never dull because every disagreement becomes a chance to deepen understanding. Their fiery approach to conflict ensures nothing stays buried. Yes, there will be sparks, but there will also be renewal. They tear down walls only to build bridges higher and stronger. With Aries, love doesn't wither in silence, it thrives in expression. They would rather risk a thunderclap than endure a quiet that kills connection. And if you can meet them there, in that flash of honesty, in that fierce yet fleeting flame, you'll find that even their arguments hold a strange kind of grace. Because beneath every blaze lies devotion, and when the smoke clears, you'll see it in their eyes, the unspoken promise that no matter how hot the fire burns, they'll always come back to rebuild with you. Aries and the art of growth. When fire learns to warm, not burn. There comes a moment in every Aries' life, somewhere between the dizzy pulse of youth and the quieter hum of wisdom, when they realize that not every fire is meant to rage. That some flames are meant to sustain, not destroy. In marriage, this moment marks their true evolution. They begin as wild sparks, burning bright, unpredictable, and magnificent, but the real art lies in learning to turn that same heat into light. A warmth that lasts, not a blaze that consumes. In their younger, unhealed form, Aries often confuses excitement with love. The thrill of the chase, the heat of argument, the rush of being wanted, these feel like proof of passion. When the adrenaline fades, they fear the feeling of calm as a kind of death. Stillness, to them, once meant emptiness. But as they mature, something remarkable happens. They begin to understand that peace doesn't mean boredom. It means trust. It means safety. It means they've finally built a fire that doesn't need chaos to stay alive. An evolved Aries learns emotional patience, and that patience doesn't dull their edge, it refines it. They start to notice that love has seasons. The early years may blaze with novelty, but as time passes, it's the quiet mornings, the shared glances, the subtle ways of showing up for each other that define true devotion. They realize that tending a relationship isn't about constant reinvention. It's about consistency, care, and courage to remain open when things get ordinary. When Aries reaches this place of maturity, their energy transforms. They become an unstoppable source of motivation, the partner who whispers, "You've got this," when doubt whispers otherwise. They become cheerleaders of the soul. If you've ever been loved by a mature Aries, you know what it feels like. It's like standing in sunlight after a long winter. Their confidence radiates without arrogance. Their enthusiasm no longer seeks to dominate, it seeks to uplift. They inspire not by demanding more, but by showing more persistence, more faith, more joy in effort. In marriage, they turn partnership into a shared quest for betterment. They're the ones encouraging their spouse to start that business, finish that novel, take that leap. Their optimism becomes contagious, their courage, an antidote to fear. What once was selfish ambition turns into shared ambition. What once was restlessness becomes purpose. But make no mistake, this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's born from the ashes of their earlier mistakes. Aries must first experience what it's like to burn too hot, to love too recklessly, to chase too wildly, to fight without listening. They must see what's left after the fire fades, the hurt, the silence, the loneliness that comes from loving without mindfulness. Only then do they understand the cost of unchecked flame. Growth for Aries often arrives through heartbreak, through the sobering awareness that passion without patience cannot sustain life. And when they learn, they truly learn. They become almost poetic in their understanding of balance. They learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to hold, when to burn and when to glow. They start to see that gentleness can coexist with power, that fire, when guided, can both cook the meal and light the path. This evolved Aries no longer seeks constant validation. They've already proven themselves to themselves. Their confidence comes from self-knowledge, not conquest. In love, that means they stop trying to win and start trying to understand. The games, the drama, the endless need to test devotion, all fall away. They begin to value peace not as surrender, but as strength. To be married to a mature Aries is to be partnered with someone who loves fiercely yet wisely. They don't demand perfection, they seek growth. When their spouse falters, they don't scold, they encourage. When life hits hard, they don't run, they brace their shoulders beside you. They've learned that the bravest thing in love isn't fighting, it's staying. Staying when it's quiet, when it's hard, when the flame feels small. Because now they know that real warmth doesn't flicker with every gust. There's a beauty to how they evolve with time. In their early days, Aries loves like a wildfire, unpredictable, exhilarating, and often destructive. But as they age and soften, they become a hearth fire, steady, dependable, glowing with quiet strength. Their home becomes a sanctuary of warmth. They begin to understand that protecting the flame is a daily act, one built on listening, empathy, forgiveness, and humor. And yet, even in this maturity, Aries never loses their spark. They'll still surprise you, still plan the spontaneous weekend away, still make your pulse race. But now it comes with intention, not impulse. Their spontaneity becomes generosity, a gift rather than a test. They give without demanding recognition, love without the need to dominate. Through this transformation, Aries teaches a profound truth about love: passion is not the opposite of peace. It's the reward of it. When two people trust each other deeply, passion doesn't fade. It refines, becomes richer, more meaningful. An Aries who has learned this becomes an alchemist in marriage, turning raw emotion into golden stability, turning friction into intimacy, turning independence into interdependence. This emotional growth also changes how they see vulnerability. Where once they saw it as weakness, now they recognize it as the bridge that connects them most deeply to their partner. They learn that revealing their fears, doubts, and tenderness doesn't make them smaller, it makes their love infinite. For the first time, their fire warms not just the body but the heart. As years pass, you can see the shift in their eyes. The same light that once flashed with combat now glows with kindness. Their energy, once chaotic, becomes purposeful. They no longer seek to conquer the world, they seek to nurture their corner of it. They take pride in simple things: shared laughter over breakfast, a quiet evening spent dreaming together, the comfort of a familiar hand reaching for theirs. And that's the secret of Aries' growth. They don't extinguish their fire to find peace, they learn to control it. They become masters of warmth, knowing when to let the flame rise and when to let it rest. Their love matures into a steady beacon that guides both partners through life's long winters. They become the kind of partner who can weather storms without panic. Where once they might have seen conflict as a threat, they now see it as an opportunity to grow together. They use honesty like kindling, gently, deliberately, with care. Their apologies become deeper, their forgiveness quicker, their laughter more genuine. To live with a grown Aries is to feel alive without chaos, safe without dullness. It's to experience passion that doesn't fade, it evolves. It's to sit beside a flame that doesn't scorch but warms, that doesn't shout but glows. The transformation is nothing short of poetic. The warrior becomes the guardian, the spark becomes the sun, and the restless heart finally finds its rhythm. Because in the end, that's what Aries learns. Love isn't about burning forever. It's about burning right, and once they master that art, their warmth can last a lifetime, glowing quietly, fiercely, faithfully, through every season of the soul. Best zodiac matches for Aries in business and marriage. When it comes to both marriage and shared ambition, Aries is drawn to people who understand the rhythm of fire, those who can stand close enough to feel the heat, but not so close that they're burned. They need partners, not passengers. Equals, not admirers. Their perfect matches are those who can run beside them, who see life not as a competition but as a shared crusade. Aries thrives when matched with signs that either match their velocity or temper their flame with wit, wisdom, or vision. The best relationships for Aries are not the ones that feel effortless but the ones that elevate, partnerships that turn friction into fuel. When aligned with the right sign, Aries doesn't just fall in love, they build something monumental. Together, they conquer challenges, dream bigger, and refuse to accept mediocrity. Let's step into the constellations that bring out the best in Aries, where fire meets its equals in passion, purpose, and brilliance. Leo. When Aries meets Leo, it's like two stars colliding, not in destruction, but in brilliance. Both are fire signs, born leaders, and creators of their own destinies. From the first spark, there's recognition, that instant, magnetic understanding between two souls who refuse to live small. They see each other and think, finally, someone who can keep up. In love, Aries and Leo are the ultimate power couple. They share a language of confidence and charisma, an unspoken agreement that the world is their stage. Aries admires Leo's royal sense of self, their generosity, their warmth. Leo, in turn, is drawn to Aries' raw courage, that unfiltered passion that lights up every room they enter. Together, they are unstoppable. Aries brings initiation, Leo brings endurance. Aries starts the fire, Leo keeps it burning. But what makes them so magnetic can also test them. Both are strong-willed, both want to lead. Arguments can turn into battles for the throne, but those clashes, if handled with humor and mutual respect, become the very thing that strengthens their bond. The truth is, Aries doesn't want to dominate Leo, they want to inspire them. And Leo, wise and proud, doesn't want to control Aries, they want to shine with them. When ego becomes partnership, these two blaze like a sunrise that never fades. In business, Aries and Leo form an empire. Aries' daring impulses meet Leo's vision for grandeur. Aries acts fast, Leo refines. Together, they build not just for profit, but for legacy. They'll work long hours not because they have to, but because they love to, each meeting a battlefield of ideas, each victory celebrated like a royal feast. Theirs is a partnership where ambition feels like art, where mutual admiration is the currency of success. Sagittarius. If Leo is Aries' royal equal, Sagittarius is their fellow adventurer, the kindred spirit who lives for movement, laughter, and discovery. When Aries and Sagittarius collide, it's like lighting two torches from the same flame. Their connection is immediate, their chemistry undeniable, their rhythm effortless. They understand each other's need for freedom, excitement, and truth. Together, they live in motion, road trips, new projects, impulsive decisions that somehow always work out. Sagittarius brings philosophy to Aries' action, they give meaning to the madness. Aries ignites, Sagittarius expands. Where Aries charges forward, Sagittarius zooms out, reminding them of the horizon beyond the battle. Their relationship becomes a dance of spontaneity and wisdom, wild yet purposeful. There's laughter here, endless laughter. Even when they fight, they can't stay angry for long. Both value honesty too much to hide behind resentment. They'll yell, they'll joke, they'll make up, often in the same breath. Their marriage thrives on constant renewal. Every day feels like a new chapter in a shared adventure. In business, they're visionary pioneers. Aries brings boldness, Sagittarius brings foresight. Together, they're the risk-takers who start revolutions, entrepreneurs, explorers, innovators. They're not afraid to fail because to them, failure is just another story worth telling. They succeed not by playing safe, but by playing big. When these two join forces, their energy becomes unstoppable. The kind that bends rules, redefines limits, and sets trends others can only chase. Gemini. Now enter Gemini, the airy spark that meets Aries' flame and turns it into fireworks. This is a pairing built on mental chemistry and movement. When Aries meets Gemini, something in them lights up. They find someone who can match their pace, word for word, idea for idea, laugh for laugh. Both crave excitement, both despise stagnation, both live for curiosity. Gemini brings intellectual playfulness to Aries' raw energy. Conversations between them can last all night, debates, jokes, dreams, a constant dance of minds. Aries loves Gemini's flexibility, their ability to adapt, to pivot, to reinvent. Gemini admires Aries' decisiveness, their boldness to do what others only talk about. Together, they turn ideas into action. Gemini dreams it, Aries builds it. But this duo also teaches each other balance. Aries learns to pause before charging, to think before leaping. Gemini learns to ground their scattered thoughts in action, to give shape to their whirlwind of ideas. In love, they challenge each other constantly, not out of conflict, but curiosity. Every day brings new stories, new challenges, new laughter. In business, they're unstoppable creators. Aries is the engine, Gemini is the steering wheel. Aries provides the fire, Gemini directs it. Together, they thrive in fast-paced industries, media, tech, design, entrepreneurship, anything that demands innovation and adaptability. Their dynamic energy makes them not just partners, but catalysts for change. Aquarius. And then there's Aquarius, the visionary air sign that can meet Aries' fire not with resistance, but with strategy. Aries brings the spark, Aquarius brings the plan. Their union feels like innovation itself, one that reshapes the future rather than repeats the past. When these two connect, it's not about emotion first, it's about ideas. Aries is drawn to Aquarius's originality, their bold thinking, their refusal to conform. Aquarius, in turn, admires Aries' courage to act on inspiration. They push each other intellectually and creatively. Conversations between them often sound like brainstorming sessions for world-changing ideas. In love, their chemistry burns differently, not with the heat of instant infatuation, but with the slow-building fire of respect. Aquarius offers Aries something few can: challenge without control. They stimulate their mind, not just their body. Aries teaches Aquarius that ideas mean nothing without execution. Aquarius teaches Aries that action means little without vision. Together, they create balance, heart and mind, impulse and insight. In business, this pairing is electric. Aries is the pioneer who takes the leap. Aquarius is the strategist who makes sure the leap lands somewhere meaningful. Aries turns passion into motion, Aquarius turns motion into method. Together, they're the duo that disrupts industries, inventors, founders, dreamers with discipline. They're not afraid to be misunderstood because they're too busy building the future everyone else will one day understand. For Aries, these four signs, Leo, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Aquarius, are more than compatible partners, they are mirrors and multipliers. Each one reflects a part of Aries' spirit and amplifies it. Leo mirrors their confidence, Sagittarius matches their adventure, Gemini balances their spontaneity with wit, Aquarius elevates their fire into purpose. These are the relationships that make Aries shine without burning out, the ones that let them be fully themselves while constantly expanding into something more. Together, they don't just build love stories, they build legacies. Families rooted in laughter and ambition. Businesses born from passion, not pressure. Partnerships that outlast storms because they were never afraid of fire. In the end, the secret to Aries' best matches lies in this truth: their fire doesn't need to be tamed, it needs to be understood. And these signs understand it. They don't try to put it out, they learn to stand beside it, to draw strength from its heat. With them, Aries doesn't have to shrink or shout to be seen. They simply burn, bright and whole, next to someone who burns just as beautifully. Toxic matches, when the fire turns against itself. Not every zodiac sign can survive the heat of an Aries partnership. For all their brilliance, boldness, and vitality, Aries carries an intensity that can overwhelm the unprepared. They love fast, live loudly, and fight with the full weight of their heart. To match that kind of energy, a partner must not only be strong, they must be self-assured. Otherwise, what begins as passion can quickly turn into combustion. Aries doesn't do half measures. They don't love gently, and they don't argue softly. Their honesty is like a sword, sharp, pure, and sometimes cutting. They see truth as love, but not everyone interprets it that way. To those who crave calm reassurance or emotional subtlety, Aries can feel like a storm that doesn't know when to stop. That's why certain zodiac pairings, though magnetic at first, can spiral into frustration, confusion, or heartbreak. These combinations aren't doomed, but they require extraordinary emotional intelligence. They challenge Aries to grow, to slow down, and to see that not everyone burns at the same temperature. Let's step carefully through these volatile dynamics, where the fire that gives Aries life can sometimes consume the connection it seeks to preserve. Cancer. At first glance, Aries and Cancer seem to share a strange chemistry. Both are cardinal signs, born initiators who crave connection and purpose. The attraction is real. Aries is drawn to Cancer's warmth, their nurturing energy, their emotional depth. Cancer, in turn, feels intrigued by Aries' confidence and decisiveness. They see someone who can protect, lead, and act, qualities that make them feel safe. But as the honeymoon fades, their emotional languages begin to clash. Aries communicates through action, blunt, fast, unfiltered. Cancer communicates through emotion, subtle, intuitive, layered. To Aries, Cancer's emotional sensitivity can feel like walking through fog. To Cancer, Aries' bluntness feels like being caught in a lightning storm with no shelter. Aries believes in tackling conflict head-on, while Cancer retreats into silence, hoping time will heal. This difference can create a painful loop. The more Cancer withdraws, the louder Aries gets. The louder Aries gets, the deeper Cancer hides. Over time, resentment builds. Aries may see Cancer as too fragile, too indirect, while Cancer begins to feel unseen, bulldozed by Aries' intensity. What started as protection turns into intrusion. What once felt like passion starts to feel like danger. The relationship can only survive if both learn to step into each other's rhythm. Aries softening their delivery, Cancer strengthening their voice. Otherwise, the fire that was meant to warm Cancer ends up scaring them away. Capricorn. Here, we find a different kind of tension, not emotional, but philosophical. Capricorn is earth to Aries fire, structure to Aries impulse. On paper, they could complement each other beautifully. Aries brings daring, Capricorn brings discipline. But in practice, their fundamental approaches to life often clash like flint and steel. Aries leaps before looking. Capricorn plans before leaping. Aries thrives on momentum, risk, and adrenaline. Capricorn thrives on strategy, patience, and long-term gain. Aries says, "Let's go," and Capricorn says, "Let's think." To Aries, Capricorn's caution feels like resistance. To Capricorn, Aries' spontaneity feels like chaos. At first, there's mutual fascination. Capricorn secretly admires Aries' courage, their refusal to be constrained by fear. Aries, in turn, is intrigued by Capricorn's composure, that calm authority that can't be shaken. But once real-life decisions enter the picture, money, family, business, friction begins. Aries acts from instinct, Capricorn from logic. Aries sees hesitation as mistrust, Capricorn sees recklessness as immaturity. Over time, the energy becomes combative. Aries feels judged, Capricorn feels exhausted. Aries wants inspiration, not instruction. Capricorn wants results, not rebellion. They love differently. Aries through spontaneity and passion, Capricorn through constancy and responsibility. Without compromise, Aries ends up feeling stifled, while Capricorn feels like they're constantly cleaning up after someone's fireworks show. Yet, in rare cases, when they both evolve, they can become an unstoppable duo. Aries brings vision, Capricorn brings the blueprint. But that only happens when Aries learns restraint and Capricorn learns to let go. Until then, they're too often locked in a struggle, a wildfire trying to burn through stone. Virgo. This pairing is like mixing gasoline with a microscope. Virgo, ruled by Mercury, is the perfectionist, careful, analytical, and endlessly observant. Aries, ruled by Mars, is impulsive, instinctive, and allergic to overthinking. At first, Virgo is captivated by Aries' raw vitality. Aries, in turn, is intrigued by Virgo's mind, their precision, their quiet intelligence. It's a meeting of chaos and control. But soon, that contrast becomes a battlefield. Virgo's need for order collides with Aries' love for spontaneity. Aries wants to act now, Virgo wants to check the details 10 more times. What Aries calls efficiency, Virgo calls recklessness. What Virgo calls caution, Aries calls fear. And then comes the criticism, Virgo's weapon of choice. They don't mean to wound, they simply can't help pointing out what could be improved. But to Aries, every critique feels like a blow to their pride. Aries doesn't want to be corrected, they want to be celebrated. Meanwhile, Virgo feels increasingly anxious watching Aries charge ahead without a plan. The result? A dynamic where Virgo nags, Aries rebels, and both end up feeling misunderstood. In love, this can turn toxic quickly. Aries feels smothered, Virgo feels unappreciated. Aries' bursts of passion feel disruptive to Virgo's routine, while Virgo's restraint feels like rejection to Aries. They may both start with the best of intentions, Aries trying to bring excitement into Virgo's life, Virgo trying to bring stability into Aries, but without deep empathy, they simply wear each other out. Still, if they ever manage to balance their differences, something magical can happen. Virgo can teach Aries the value of refinement, while Aries can teach Virgo the joy of imperfection. But most of the time, the lesson comes through friction, a slow burn rather than a shared flame. Pisces. This is where fire meets water, and though the image sounds romantic, it's often a story of steam and smoke. Aries and Pisces are both dreamers, both idealists, but they dream in different directions. Aries dreams in motion, about action, conquest, the next challenge. Pisces dreams in emotion, about connection, empathy, and transcendence. Together, they can create moments of deep magic, but sustaining that magic takes superhuman understanding. In the beginning, Aries is enchanted by Pisces' softness, their compassion, their artistic aura, their emotional depth. Pisces, meanwhile, sees in Aries a hero, someone who acts on instinct, who gives them the courage they often lack. Aries protects, Pisces soothes. It's a fairy tale for a while. Then reality arrives. Pisces starts needing emotional reassurance, gentle words, tenderness, consistency. Aries, who lives more through action than words, doesn't always notice those subtle emotional cues. They think they're showing love by showing up, by fixing problems, by pushing forward. But Pisces needs something slower, softer, eye contact, understanding, presence. When they don't get it, they retreat. Aries, sensing distance, grows impatient. They push harder, talk louder, fight for connection, not realizing that their fire is evaporating Pisces' waters. Pisces starts to feel unseen, overwhelmed, and begins to drift emotionally. To Aries, that withdrawal feels like betrayal. To Pisces, Aries' intensity feels like aggression. What began as passion becomes confusion, love lost in translation. If these two are to survive, Aries must learn empathy as strength, not softness, and Pisces must learn boundaries as love, not rejection. Otherwise, their story ends in the same way their elements predict, with one consumed, the other extinguished. Ultimately, these toxic matches aren't about blame, they're about awareness. Aries doesn't set out to harm, they simply burn at a pace that not everyone can match. Cancer, Capricorn, Virgo, and Pisces each offer lessons, not failures. They show Aries the importance of timing, patience, and sensitivity. They reveal that not every spark must become a blaze, and not every silence means surrender. Because in the end, astrology is not destiny, it's a map. And if Aries learns to read that map with humility, every so-called toxic pairing becomes a chance to grow. Fire can destroy, yes, but in the hands of one who's learned control, it can also purify, illuminate, and begin again. The legacy of love, Aries' true purpose in marriage. At their core, Aries doesn't marry for comfort, they marry for meaning. They enter love the same way they enter life, head first, heart open, spirit blazing. To Aries, love isn't a safe harbor, it's an expedition, an odyssey into the wild terrains of human connection. They don't want to merely exist beside someone, they want to evolve with them. They crave a partner who makes their blood race, their mind expand, and their soul sharpen. To be loved by Aries is to stand in the crossfire of passion and purpose, a love that refuses to stagnate, that challenges you to rise, to change, to burn brighter. In the early stages of love, Aries often chases the thrill, the ignition, the adrenaline, the high-voltage chemistry that makes every moment feel cinematic. But as time softens their edges, they begin to understand that the real test of love isn't in the fire's beginning, but in its endurance. What happens after the flames calm? After the novelty fades? This is where Aries faces their greatest spiritual test, the journey from passion to purpose, from conquest to connection. For Aries, marriage becomes a crucible, a sacred space where they learn to refine their wild energy into something deeper, steadier, and infinitely more powerful. They discover that being strong doesn't always mean leading every battle. Sometimes, true courage lies in yielding, in letting someone else's rhythm set the pace, in trusting love enough to release control. This is a revelation for Aries, that surrender is not defeat, but devotion. Their natural instinct is to protect, to charge forward, to fix. But as they mature, Aries begins to see that love doesn't always need saving, sometimes it just needs seeing. They learn that the kind of heroism love requires isn't about slaying dragons, it's about showing up, day after day, without armor. It's about listening even when it's uncomfortable, about holding their partner's pain without trying to solve it. That's where Aries discovers the hidden dimension of strength, the kind that comes from presence, not performance. When Aries learns to merge tenderness with their native fire, they become extraordinary partners. Their passion becomes purpose-driven. Their enthusiasm becomes healing. They transform from warriors into protectors, from fighters into builders. They bring movement to what's stagnant, light to what's dim, hope to what's heavy. Every day with an evolved Aries feels alive, not because they're always dramatic, but because they remind you that life is meant to feel. In marriage, Aries thrives when they see their partner not as a possession, but as a co-creator, someone with whom they can build empires of both love and legacy. They're not interested in complacency, they're interested in progress. Together, they want to turn dreams into deeds, plans into projects, sparks into something enduring. They want to build a home, a business, a life that reflects their shared courage. When Aries commits, they commit with their entire being, physically, emotionally, spiritually. There's no halfway. But this intensity also means they must learn to balance their fire with patience. Their challenge in marriage is not to lose their independence while embracing partnership. They must learn that vulnerability doesn't dilute their power, it amplifies it. To open their heart without losing their edge, to admit fear without feeling weak, to ask for help without shame, these are the quiet revolutions that define Aries' evolution. It's here, in this vulnerable space, that Aries learns their most profound truth, that love is not a battlefield to win, but a garden to tend. The same energy they once used to conquer is now used to nurture. They start to see beauty not in the loud moments, but in the subtle ones, the shared morning coffee, the tired smile after a long day, the way their partner reaches for their hand without words. For Aries, these small, steady acts of connection become the truest form of adventure. Aries' love legacy is written not in perfection, but in growth. They're not the sign of still waters, they're the river that keeps carving its path through stone. And in marriage, that means they never stop evolving. They might stumble, falter, flare, but they always come back stronger. Their relationships are marked by rebirths, by constant rediscovery of themselves and their partner. Every argument, every reconciliation, every shared victory becomes part of their mythology. Their love story isn't about smooth sailing. It's about motion, transformation, and resilience. The scars they gather together don't symbolize failure. They symbolize bravery. Aries believes that to love deeply is to risk completely, and they would rather burn than live lukewarm. In that way, their marriages, even the imperfect ones, are always meaningful, always alive. To their partner, Aries brings a rare kind of alchemy. They take the mundane and make it magnificent. They infuse energy into tired dreams, laughter into dull days, courage into hesitation. With Aries, life is never static. It breathes, pulses, evolves. They challenge their partner to dream bigger, live bolder, forgive faster. And in return, they crave one thing: authenticity. They want someone who stands tall beside them, not behind them. Someone who can look them in the eye and say, "I'm not afraid of your fire." When Aries reaches this stage of self-awareness, they become more than just lovers, they become leaders of light. Their relationship becomes an example of what happens when passion meets purpose, when strength learns compassion, when action learns stillness. They begin to understand that love isn't just about finding the right person, it's about becoming the right person. And perhaps that is Aries' truest legacy in marriage, not what they build externally, but what they build within themselves. They enter relationships as warriors but emerge as sages. They learn that love isn't about domination, but collaboration, not about speed, but rhythm, not about always being first, but learning when to let another lead. Their life's lesson, then, is both humbling and beautiful. That the fire they carry was never meant just to conquer, it was meant to illuminate, to guide, to inspire, to warm. When they finally understand this, Aries' love becomes a force of nature, not destructive, but divine. In the end, their story isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about two souls, fiery, flawed, fearless, daring to meet life head-on and love anyway. Their union, marked by passion and tempered by growth, becomes a living testament to what it means to truly be alive. And as the years pass, when the hair grays and the battles fade, Aries looks at their partner and smiles, not because every day was easy, but because every day was real. That's the legacy Aries leaves behind in love, not a flawless fairy tale, but a blazing, breathtaking truth, that to love fully, to live bravely, and to feel deeply, even when it hurts, is the most heroic act of all.